Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is a common and pervasive cause of acute respiratory illness that can affect people of all ages. However, it is especially dangerous for older adults, especially during the winter season. In this video, we will explain what RSV is and why it is a serious threat for older adults. RSV is a virus that usually infects the lungs and airways, causing symptoms such as coughing, wheezing, fever, and difficulty breathing. For most adults, RSV infections can feel like a common cold, but for older adults, the virus can lead to serious complications such as pneumonia, bronchitis, heart failure, and even death. According to the FDA, each year, about 60,000 adults 65 and older are hospitalized with RSV and about 6,000 to 10,000 die from the virus in the United States. Older adults are at higher risk of severe RSV infection because their immune system weakens with age, and they may have chronic conditions such as heart or lung disease that make them more vulnerable to respiratory infections. Additionally, older adults may have less exposure to RSV than younger people who have frequent contact with children who are often carriers of the virus. This means that older adults may have less immunity to RSV and may experience more severe symptoms when they get infected. RSV infections tend to peak during the winter season when people spend more time indoors and in close contact with others who may be sick. The virus can spread easily through coughs or sneezes from an infected person, through direct contact with the virus such as kissing or sharing utensils, or through touching a surface with the virus on it such as a doorknob or a toy. Therefore, it is important for older adults to take precautions to prevent RSV infection, such as washing their hands frequently, avoiding contact with sick people, and wearing a mask when in crowded places. Unfortunately, there is currently no cure or vaccine for RSV. The only treatment available is supportive care such as oxygen and fluids for those with severe illness. However, there is hope for the future as Pfizer has developed an RSV vaccine for older adults that has been approved by the FDA in May. The vaccine, called Abrysvo, is based on scientific discoveries made at the National Institutes of Health, NIH, that revealed the structure of a key protein that RSV uses to enter human cells. The vaccine aims to elicit an immune response against this protein and prevent RSV infection. According to Pfizer's data submitted to the FDA, Abrysvo proved nearly 67% effective against cases of RSV with 2 symptoms and 86% effective against cases with 3 or more symptoms. The vaccine is expected to be available in the fall before the winter RSV season and will be given as a single-dose injection in the arm. The vaccine is recommended for adults aged 60 and older who are at high risk of severe RSV infection. Abrysvo is the second RSV vaccine approved by the FDA after GSK's Arexvy, which was approved earlier in May. Both vaccines offer protection from RSV for older adults and could potentially save thousands of lives each year. Pfizer is also working on developing an RSV vaccine for infants through maternal immunization, which is currently in phase 3 clinical trial. RSV is a serious threat for older adults that can cause severe respiratory illness and death. However, thanks to Pfizer's RSV vaccine Abrysvo, older adults can now have a preventive option to reduce their risk of RSV infection and enjoy a healthier winter season. Respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, is a common and serious cause of respiratory illness. It can affect people of all ages, but it is especially dangerous for older adults. RSV can lead to hospitalization and death in this population. In fact, every year, about 60,000 adults 65 and older are hospitalized and 6,000 to 10,000 die from RSV in the United States. But there is good news. Pfizer has developed a vaccine against RSV for adults 60 and older. The vaccine, called Abrysvo, was approved by the FDA in May. It is expected to be available before the winter RSV season. So how does Abrysvo work? And what are its benefits and safety profile? Abrysvo is a vaccine that stimulates the immune system to produce antibodies against RSV. These antibodies can prevent RSV infection or reduce its severity. Abrysvo targets a key form of the viral fusion protein, F, that RSV uses to enter human cells. This form is called prefusion F, and it was discovered by scientists at the National Institutes of Health, NIH. Abrysvo is given as a single injection in the upper arm. It has shown high efficacy and durability in clinical trials. According to data submitted to the FDA, Abrysvo was nearly 67% effective against cases of RSV with 2 symptoms and 86% effective against cases with 3 or more symptoms. The vaccine also maintained its effectiveness for at least 18 months after vaccination. Abrysvo has a favorable safety profile as well. The most common side effects reported were pain, redness, and swelling at the injection site, headache, fatigue, muscle pain, and joint pain. These side effects were mostly mild or moderate and lasted for a few days. However, there were also some rare but serious cases of autoimmune syndromes reported in vaccine recipients. These included Guillain-Barré syndrome and Miller-Fisher syndrome, which are conditions where the immune system attacks the nervous system. These cases occurred within a week or 2 after vaccination and were treated successfully. The FDA and CDC are monitoring the safety of Abrysvo closely and will provide updates as needed. The benefits of Abrysvo outweigh its risks for most older adults, but you should talk to your doctor before getting vaccinated if you have any medical conditions or concerns. Abrysvo is a breakthrough vaccine that can protect older adults from RSV, a potentially life-threatening infection. By getting vaccinated, you can reduce your risk of hospitalization and death from RSV and enjoy a healthier winter season. Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is a common virus that can cause serious respiratory infections in older adults. RSV can lead to pneumonia, bronchitis, and even death in some cases. According to the CDC, RSV causes about 60,000 to 120,000 hospitalizations and 6,000 to 10,000 deaths each year among adults 65 years and older in the U.S. Until recently, there was no vaccine available to prevent RSV infections in older adults. But that changed in May 2023, when the FDA approved the first RSV vaccine for this population. The vaccine is called ABRYSVO, and it was developed by Pfizer. Abrysvo is a bivalent vaccine, which means it contains 2 proteins that target both RSV-A and RSV-B strains. These proteins are called prefusion F proteins, or PrEF for short. They mimic the shape of the RSV virus before it fuses with human cells, and they trigger a strong immune response that can neutralize the virus. The FDA's approval of ABRYSVO was based on the results of a large clinical trial called RENOIR, which involved about 37,000 participants aged 60 and older from different countries. The trial showed that ABRYSVO was safe and effective in preventing lower respiratory tract disease caused by RSV. The participants received either a single dose of ABRYSVO or a placebo injection. They were followed for 1 RSV season, which typically lasts from fall to spring. The trial found that ABRYSVO reduced the risk of developing RSV-associated lower respiratory tract disease by 82.6%, and the risk of developing severe RSV-associated lower respiratory tract disease by 94.1%. The most common side effects reported by the participants who received ABRYSVO were pain at the injection site, fatigue, muscle pain, headache, and joint stiffness or pain. Following the FDA's approval of ABRYSVO, a panel of advisors to the CDC met on June 21, 2023 to vote on whether to recommend the use of ABRYSVO in older adults. The panel is called the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP for short. ACIP is a group of experts who provide guidance to the CDC on how to use vaccines to prevent diseases in the U.S. ACIP's recommendations are not binding, but they are usually followed by healthcare providers and public health authorities. After reviewing the data from the RENOIR trial and other sources, ACIP voted unanimously to recommend ABRYSVO for adults aged 60 and older. ACIP also recommended that ABRYSVO be given as a single dose before the start of each RSV season, preferably between August and October. ASIP noted that ABRYSVO can be given at the same time as other vaccines that are recommended for older adults, such as influenza and pneumococcal vaccines. ASIP's recommendations are expected to be adopted by the CDC director soon. Once they are published in the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, they will become official policy for vaccine use in the U.S. This means that ABRYSVO will be covered by Medicare and most private insurance plans for eligible adults. It also means that ABRYSVO will be available at pharmacies and clinics across the country. Abrisvo is a breakthrough vaccine that can help protect older adults from RSV infections and their complications. By getting vaccinated with ABRYSVO before each RSV season, older adults can reduce their risk of hospitalization and death from this common virus.